the talks right now are really anything could happen. And we're talking the Steelers could go a number of ways with the number of different positions with pick number 20. They can move back, they can move up. And now there's a trade that we're talking about that sends them pretty close to the top 10 picks in the NFL draft. According to Tony Pauline, NFL insider Tony Pauline, the Pittsburgh Steelers and Denver Broncos are talking trade as Pittsburgh is another team that is targeting Toledo cornerback Quinion Mitchell and would move up to draft him. The Denver Broncos sit 12th in the NFL draft. There is talks and conversations throughout the last, couple of months really about them looking for a quarterback. They make a move for Zach Wilson. Maybe that's their quarterback. Who knows? And, well, the door could be open for the Pittsburgh Steelers to move up, try and grab Quinion Mitchell, who's been real high on their list throughout the offseason. We've talked very highly about Quinion Mitchell, and we've also made it known that we have been told more than once that he is on a short list of names that they really value in this NFL draft. To move up to 12, I guess an important piece to this is the Philadelphia Eagles are also considering a move up and a trade with the Denver Broncos. You wrote it for the site yesterday. You dove into it. What were your thoughts when you saw Pittsburgh Steelers, Denver Broncos trying to work out something to move to 12?
Yeah, I was pretty surprised. The thing about Quinion Mitchell is, like you said, we had been talking about him all offseason, and it was never, when he kind of fell off of our board, it wasn't because, we learned something new or thought he was a bad player. It was because he kept rising. He kept looking like a better and better prospect, and one that more and more teams were going after. And I think that I think this report makes that even more evident. That's the tricky thing for the Steelers. If it was just them vying for that 12th pick from the Denver Broncos, I think it'd be a different story. I think you might be able to give up a little bit less, but they're going to have some competition, and your competition is the Philadelphia Eagles, who desperately need a cornerback. Yes. They desperately need help in their defensive secondary in a way that even the Steelers don't. The Steelers, they need a corner. They don't need it as desperately as the Eagles do. So, it seemed a little far-fetched to begin with, and then you throw in the fact that the Eagles are really going to drive up that price because they need Howie Roseman is not one to sit idly by and let the draft board fall to him, or let things fall to him. He's going to be aggressive. So I think the Steelers would really have to make an offer that the Broncos can't refuse, because that the Eagles are going to, if not match it, they're going to come really close to trying to vie for the same thing with a pretty steep price.
Yeah, I agree. I look at it and I say, at first glance, exciting, awesome. Denver Broncos, could this really happen? Could they be eyeing Quinion Mitchell? I think Quinion Mitchell's a sure thing, a lock in the NFL. The dude's going to be a stud. I easily agree that he's the best corner in the NFL draft. When it comes to going up to 12, I just don't know where I stand with that move, because I don't think Omar Khan is thinking we're going to give up a bunch of picks and a bunch of whatever compensation to go up and get a cornerback, especially in an NFL draft where the corners will probably be available at pick 20. And depending on, just like you said, what the Philadelphia Eagles are going to do with that trade and what they're going to offer, the Steelers are going to have to match it plus some, especially because they're in the AFC. They're further back than they'd like to be to move up to 12. That's not an easy trade to go make. That's 8 spots. That's not a 4th round pick. That's potentially a 2nd round pick to move up and get a corner. And as high as I am on Quinion Mitchell, and as much as I think Quinion Mitchell's actually going to work out, I don't know if I agree with moving up that far to go get a corner. Now, if it was 3 spots, if it was 2 spots, even if it was, maybe 5, if you could go 5 without having to give up a ton of exchange, I could justify it. 8 spots. What are we working at? We're looking at, a 1st and a 2nd round pick, most likely, right?
Yeah. And I would have to wait for a first next year, right? Or your first this year.
First this year, 20th, and then maybe 51.
Yeah, that was my first thought. But the other thing is, even if you're getting away with, sending one of those 3rd round picks or something like that, like those are really valuable. And giving up any extra picks in this draft just means that you're not going to, it makes it almost impossible to address all of your offensive line needs. You still need a receiver as well. That's my other big question is why, and we were talking about this before we started recording, but if you're going to trade up to 12, why are you not trying to land one of those top tier offensive tackles? You
Yep.
know, like
Yep.
why would that not be the move at 12? Like I don't know, that seems like a much bigger need. Corner feels like a need where there are guys that you feel obviously no one at the level of a Quinion Mitchell in the second round or something, or second or third round, but there are guys who could get close to that, who I think you could trust as a starter, either on the, like, at the very least as a starting slot corner going into next year. So I just feel like it would not only be a misuse of resources to trade up, but also to trade up for a corner. Any corner really just doesn't make a whole lot of sense.
No, I agree. I think if the only position that I would feel comfortable with the Steelers trading up to go get is an offensive tackle, and it'd have to be like a sure thing offensive tackle. You can't go up there and get, I don't know, Troy Fatanu or even J.C. Latham or Marius Mims. Like, if you're going to make a move, especially that far of a move, you're going to get Fuaga, you're going to get Fashanu. I mean, you're like hoping and praying that Joe Alt falls, and then boom, there's no weight in there. You're making a move. You're throwing everything you possibly have at the Denver Broncos. And at that point, honestly, like if you're going to move to 12 and go get a tackle, and you're going to give up, even if it's your second round pick or a third round pick, I can make that justification. I don't feel totally great about it, but I can make that justification for a corner, for a wide receiver, for a center. Just the need isn't there. The value isn't there. I think that's the other big thing is the Steelers have value at these positions, and it's not like it's Levi Wallace and Patrick Peterson again, and they're looking at it and going, oh man, this is, it didn't work out last year, and I can't believe we got to run it back with them again this year. It's Joey Porter Jr. and Dante Jackson, and the Steelers feel really good about Dante Jackson, and all they have to do is add one more piece to the puzzle. They're hoping it's Darius Rush or Corey Trice Jr. I mean, they have options, and there's still free agents out there. It's a deeper draft when it comes to the cornerback position, and you could probably find somebody in the second or the third round, even if it's, not a true, this is an immediate starter. It's definitely not a Quinion Mitchell, but it's a good, reliable pick, and then you can make decisions next year. Whereas, if you go into the season and you're missing an offensive tackle and you're missing a center, like, you're missing massive holes on this team. Like, this is not. You could go in there without a corner and you could feel okay about the roster. You can't go in there without a center and say, okay, this is going to work out. Like, it's just, chances are it's not going to work out. I agree. For a corner, it's not a move worth making if I'm the Pittsburgh Steelers. Is there a trade scenario that you see that you would feel okay with to go up and get Quinion Mitchell? Is there a value, a compensation where maybe it's 20 and a fourth round pick to move up, maybe less than 12 to go get a guy like that?
Yeah, absolutely. I'd say basically anything other than that. That, like, if you're assuming it's your first, if it's pick number 20 and then one other draft pick,
yeah,
I'd be comfortable with anything outside of 51. To be quite honest, like, you
okay,
throw one of those third round pick, like 98 or whatever you have in the fourth, like, I'm perfectly fine with that. That would make. I mean, again, going to get Mitchell for that price, maybe not my move, but trading up in a vacuum, using one of those third round picks or a fourth round pick, if you were able to get to, I don't know, 15 or maybe 18 is not worth it. Like, I feel like it'd have to be 5. It'd have to be like moving up to 15 or higher to really make it worth it.
Yeah, I agree. Unless it's an offensive tackle, that if it's, and depending on the offensive tackle, like, if you're going to give up a third round pick, I just feel like you got to go get. Like, Quinion Mitchell is a guy. Like, he's a guy that's going to work out. There's no questions that he's going to work out. It's more so like I don't know. Like, you have to go and get somebody that immediately makes this football team that much better. Like 8 picks better. And I just don't know if a corner does that.
Yeah, like the marginal value of Quinion Mitchell over Dante Jackson versus. Like, that's the thing. When you said, walking into 2024 without a corner, like, it's without a star corner. It's without a second star corner.
I was going to say a second star corner because they already have one.
Right. And when you're talking about, when you say the Steelers don't have a center, they truly do not have a center. Like,
nope.
The whole Nate Herbig and James Daniels and whoever have, like, positional or flexibility or versatility, whatever line Omar Khan has been using. I don't think that's true at all. I don't think that's. I mean, I bet it's true that they have some positional versatility,
Yeah,
but
like they could
not.
work, but you don't want
Oh,
them
I
to.
don't know if they could even work. Like I think you could say like you can give the face of like, yeah, this guy could play some center for us, and it's like
Yeah,
he could play some center for you. I don't know how well he could play that center spot for you. That's my
I
thing.
agree.
Is yeah,
I agree.
it's so much more touchy and so much more tricky at center just because there is literally no one there, in my opinion, versus at corner where you might not be as confident in those guys, but there are starters there, you know?
Yep, I agree. I agree. And you have needs. Like that's the other thing that goes into this is the Steelers. I think when people address needs is, oh, well, the Steelers have so many needs. No, they don't. They have four. And if you could go out and get all four of them with starters, you have done it. You have completed the offseason in a way where you feel so confident in your roster. If you could go out and get a starting offensive tackle, get a starting center, get a third cornerback, and get a number 2 wide receiver, you've done it. Like you have no holes left on your roster. At least no glaring holes. And I mean that's what the Steelers should be hunting for. They shouldn't be hunting for, okay, well, if we go out and make one giant splash, we get another start. Like our cornerback room is going to be the best it's been in maybe forever. I agree with that, but you have an opportunity to go hunt for a Super Bowl with a complete roster, and I think that's a better move than going out and shooting big at one guy. That's just how I feel.
Yeah, I
Um,
think
good.
quantity is going to create some quality for the Steelers. I feel like in this draft.
Yes, I agree.